All right. Hello, everyone. This is your favorite recruiter, Kristen, and I'm here with my other favorite person, Angela. We are here to talk about something that needs to be talked about, honestly. Are you building a practice that keeps top injectors, or are you training them for your competition? We talk about this all the time. And as med spa recruiters, Angela and I have a unique perspective into not only what practices are experiencing when hiring and retaining injectors, but also what injectors and potential employees are experiencing. When we interview, we dive into why we're leaving, why injectors are leaving a practice, basically, and what they're looking for in their next role. And what gives us a lot of insight is what's important to top injectors. And it might shock you, and where practices are falling really short.
Yeah, that's right. All too often, we hear from practice owners voicing their frustration about losing a great injector, a great employee of any kind. And we also hear the other side. We speak to thousands of injectors or have over the years. And so when we ask them why they're leaving their current practice, they give us a lot of really good insight. So we have a unique perspective. So today we're going to share that feedback with you so you can make sure you are not one of those practices. And I'll start with a story that might feel all too familiar for you. A med spa owner I worked with had what looked like a dream team. Her top injector was booked 6 weeks out. Patients loved her and kept coming back. Revenue was just climbing. Everything looked perfect from the outside. Then one morning, she came into a 2 sentence email waiting for her that said, I've decided to pursue another opportunity. My last day will be in 2 weeks. Ouch. Such a gut punch. There was no warning, no big conflict, no dramatic blow up, and no obvious signs that she could think of. Just gone and couldn't be salvaged. And overnight, that practice was facing $80,000 plus in lost monthly revenue, hundreds of loyal patients out the door, months of scheduling chaos, and a team that suddenly felt unstable. What shocked the owner most, though, wasn't necessarily that one resignation, as out of the blue as it seemed. It was then discovering that one of her other injectors had quietly been interviewing elsewhere, too, and the avalanche that she was starting to feel. So employees, again, rarely leave because of one big moment. They leave because of smaller gaps in systems, support, and growth that slowly add up over time. And that's exactly why we created our injector retention checklist to help you discover and determine, are you doing all of those things to avoid those gaps, avoid the lack of support, the lack of growth potential in your practice? So if you want to get that checklist, just comment in the chat the word retention and we'll send it right over to you. It'll show you how you very quickly whether your practice is built for injector retention or if you might accidentally be training talent for your competitors.
So true. The checklist is developed because we have real world, it comes from our experience with talking to these injectors. And there's a story that really reaches out to me all the time. And I remember it as an injector had been with her med spa for about 3 years. She loved her patients. She liked the owner and she was making decent, good money. And then one day she asked a simple question to her owner. What does the next step look like for me here? And the truth was, there wasn't one. No senior injector role, no trainer role, no mentorship path. And within 6 months, she accepted a position somewhere else that did offer advanced training, mentorship, and a pathway to become that trainer she's always wanted to be. Practices that retain top injectors don't just offer jobs, they offer careers. And our suggestion to you is ask yourself, if your best injector that you have right now stayed for 5 full years, what would their career path look like? And if the answer isn't clear, that's when retention is going to become very difficult. So it's easy for a practice to let things slip as they're going through the day to day, to forget about the little things while those little things add up. Our injector retention checklist helps practices retain their best employees for the long run and make sure that they keep their eye on the ultimate goal and see things through the eyes of their employees at all times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great but unfortunate story. And I've got another one for you. One that's more common than we like, may also be familiar to you. But, we had a practice where, of course, two injectors working in the same practice, but barely spoke. The dynamic was just off. There was a little bit of friction. Why? Because the practice unintentionally created competition between those injectors, competition for patients, competition for time. And that led to patient hoarding, a little bit of gossip, right? A little bit of mean girl vibes that we talk about from time to time, silent competition between them, little unspoken rivalry. And it led to the providers kind of protecting and getting very possessive of their clients. And ultimately, the lack of collaboration between providers that could have been sharing knowledge and experiences, growing together for the good of the practice, and helping each other through harder times, through complications, and relying on each other. One injector eventually said, "This doesn't feel like a team, it feels like a competition." So, high retention practices create environments where providers do collaborate. They share cases and feedback. They share their knowledge. They share their experience, and they support each other during those complications. But no injector wants to feel like they're on an island.
It's so true. We hear it all the time. And the other thing that's super important is that schedule optimization that we talk all about. There's an injector that once told us that something that was stuck with both Angela and I. She said, I love injecting, but I hate my schedule. So her days basically looked like constant double booking, no lunch breaks, charting late at night, and weekly schedule changes, if not daily schedule changes, last minute stuff. And burnout in aesthetics, it honestly rarely comes from injecting and doing what they love. It comes from chaotic systems around them and around doing what they love, which is that injecting. Practices that improve injector retention protect things like predictable schedules, lunch breaks, which are super important, charting time, and intentional double booking. Keeping that open line of communication so that way the injector is fully aware of the schedule that is given to them and any changes that are made last minute. Those systems matter more than most owners will ever realize. And the
Mhm.
injectors, they're seeing it, they look at it.
Mhm. And as much as the things, injectors look to the things that are going on within the practice, around their schedule, around their actual job, they're also looking at the other things that are a little bit more intangible but are super important. And eventually, most injectors realize the practice markets their brand and might do a really great job at that, but they're not marketing the providers. They're not marketing the injector and their talent and their presence and contributions to the practice. So, in aesthetics, we know injectors do build on and rely on their reputation. So, practices that do retain top talent provide those injectors with visibility with injector focused marketing, social media support, include them in your social media, highlight them, tout their expertise, professional before and after photography, helping. This benefits the practice, of course, the most, but helping them really build out their portfolio to show and be proud of their results. Practices also provide great online review support, making sure that those providers are getting recognized publicly by their patients and sharing those great experiences, and also fair distribution of new patients. And that kind of also goes back to the competitiveness I was talking about earlier. If one injector kind of feels like they're getting, more of a share or less of a share, that creates that unnecessary competition as well. So small changes here in these areas can make a huge difference in long-term retention. And when injectors are presented as an integral part of the brand and are included in the brand and in the marketing, they feel more connected to the practice.
Absolutely. And show me an injector that doesn't love clinical support and avoiding those complications and having a plan. Oftentimes, I have heard injectors say, my biggest fear is not a complication. It's being alone when one happens. And practices that keep injectors long term, they build safety plans like complication protocols, medical director access, standardized consent forms, and peer consultation. When providers feel supported, retention skyrockets.
Mhm. Yeah. Another issue that we often see that injectors will share with us is confusion about their compensation, or that their compensation plan is just too complicated, too many hoops to jump through to really know how they can make more and what goals they need to hit. So, of course, compensation matters. But what matters even more is clarity and being realistic with that compensation. Injectors want to understand how their commission or bonuses work, how they are earned, how performance is tracked, and even whether loyalty increases exist. Do they get rewarded over time the longer that they're with the practice? Does that potential just keep growing and growing for them? And they want to know that they don't have to jump through 10 different hoops to earn more. So transparency builds trust, and trust builds retention.
And along with trust comes that need for communication and feedback. It goes both ways. Imagine yourself working somewhere for 2 years and never having a formal review. No goals, no feedback, no development conversations, nothing. High retention practices, in our experience, schedule things and are completely intentional about quarterly check ins, if not daily check ins, honestly, goal setting, open feedback. These conversations completely keep your providers engaged because they want to be a part of the conversation.
Mhm. So many people want to be part of the solution, even if there are things within the practice, and they want to be part of it. So, some ideas for some other long term retention incentives. We know that practices don't just keep injectors long because they offer good pay, right? There are other incentives that come with that. So, to build real retention incentives that make providers feel invested in staying in the long term, things can look like loyalty and milestone rewards, retention bonuses at 1, 3, or 5 years, or God willing, even longer, 10-year retention bonuses. Anniversary recognition, just showing that you know and you care that they've been with you for a certain amount of time, just really makes people feel good, in addition to any particular bonus you might offer for that longevity. But service credits or other milestone rewards, growth opportunities, which Kristen, you touched on, earlier, senior injector roles, lead positions, lead titles, trainer or educator pathways, mentorship opportunities, kind of letting them know that, yes, we recognize your talent, we recognize your loyalty, and we're giving you that sort of elevated status within that practice. That can go a long way with some injectors. Professional development and making sure that you are showing and proving that you remain invested in their continued growth and their career path. So sponsorships for conferences, advanced injector trainings, other certifications or specialized courses that show that you really care about, again, them continuing to expand their skills, which ultimately should benefit the practice as well, but it's about their career growth in that mindset. And then other shared success incentives, potential profit sharing, performance bonuses over and above what their typical performance bonuses are as part of their regular compensation, or some other form of revenue participation, a little perk when they do exceed their goals by a certain amount. So again, these are just some suggestions. I'm not telling you to run out and implement all of these things tomorrow. You'd have to kind of assess your ability to do so, and roll them out strategically, and which ones might work best for you in the short term versus long term. But when injectors feel like their career, their reputation, and their financial growth are all improving within the practice, retention becomes that much easier. And in those environments, leaving doesn't feel like an upgrade, like the grass is greener on the other side, like it's going to be better somewhere else. It will feel like walking away. They're walking away from the momentum that they're building with you. If you want to see whether your practice has these types of systems in place that we've just gone through, again, comment the word retention in the chat and we'll get it right to you.
It's so important that everyone who's listening to this realizes that this checklist was made from having the conversations with some of the top injectors, and really understanding the perspective. Not one injector would be disappointed knowing that their owner had a checklist that was trying to retain them as an employee. It shows that you care. It shows that there's value that they're bringing. And it shows, again, retention is on the top of your list just as much as profitability. So, again, the most successful practices don't just hire injectors. We are trying to retain this top talent as well, because that's what's going to set you apart. You can have all the same machines as each competitor down the road from you, but it's the person behind them, the person behind that syringe that's going to make all the difference and set you apart. So when you have everything in place and you have most of those boxes checked, what's going to happen? Loyalty increases, turnover drops, patient outcomes improved, and they're happy, and your Google reviews go through the roof. And your practice attracts better talent down the road when you want to add to the team.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to see how your practice actually scores, actually gives you a score when it comes to the injector retention you currently have, we've created, again, that quick checklist for you. Download it, put the in the chat, all the things, because this one, you guys, is one to have and put into your arsenal, because it's going to help you. We've created it to help you. So again, comment the word retention below in the chat and we'll send it to you. It's a quick way to see if your practice is up for long-term retention or if you're helping out your competition and giving them some top talent. So, whew, Angela, that was a lot to take in, huh?
Yeah, I think, what it comes down to is when injectors know, see, and more importantly, can feel that you care and that you are thinking about those things and you are concerned about their growth and how you can have a part in that. That's really what it comes down to.
Absolutely. And I know we have some questions. So, all right, Angela, I'm going to
Yeah.
put you on the spot. Do you mind?
What do we
All
got?
right. How do I keep a top injector from leaving for a higher paying offer? That
Okay,
comes up a
that's
lot.
usually, that's what you'll hear. And sometimes, it might be hard to compete with, but it's really not if you're doing all the things. So remember, always, always, always remember, you are not competing on pay alone. That is rarely the only factor that they're considering. You compete on the total opportunity. So top injectors stay when they feel like their income can continue to grow where they are. They have a clear path to trainer, senior injector, some sort of leadership role, or other mentorship opportunities. When they feel they're supported operationally and clinically, they feel that they're building something, not just working shifts. So if another offer is the only place they see that growth and opportunity, sure, they'll take it. But if they already have built momentum, have support, and see a future in your practice, leaving starts to feel like more of a risk, not an upgrade.
Well said. We have a question in the chat, Angela, that we're going to pair up together and try and see if we can answer this on the spot, okay?
Okay.
So, we are about to hire a part-time injector. She was shadowing a lead injector. She made comments on the lead injector's techniques while the lead injector was working on a live client. This potentially makes the client lose confidence in the lead injector, who's extremely good. How do I make sure that this doesn't happen again? And any other pearls on making sure the new injector stays with us long term? Well, that is full of a lot of insight and questions that we need to answer. So, in my perspective, first and foremost, the culture you have is one thing that you absolutely have to set the tone early. So, if you see behavior or interaction, intentional or not, between employees, address it, but address it privately and make sure that you understood where that question that this other injector was having, is it coming from a place that's good and it was delivered wrong? Or is there a sense of competition, like
Mhm.
Angela, was talking about, where they feel threatened in some kind of way? Or maybe they're just a natural teacher and that's the trainer inside of them, who knows? But understand the intention behind it. And if there's ill intention, think about the person behind that injector role because that's just as important to understand if that's right for your team. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you don't see those things until people start and become acquainted with your people who are there. Make sure you address it. Don't
Mm-hmm.
be afraid to have the tough conversations because otherwise, basically, by not saying anything, you're saying it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not sticking up for both sides of the perspective of that. And when you do that, that's going to be how you make sure that injectors stay. It's all about that culture, in my opinion. So, Angela, any thoughts?
I could not have said it better myself. And of course, if it's a repeat offense, if it's something that continues to happen after you have addressed it privately and professionally and attempted to correct it, then of course you may have a bigger issue with the personality, and
Hmm.
with possible change and making it better. So
Yep.
no, but Kristen, I think you hit that one on the head.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And to all the viewers out there, hello, hello. We are so excited that you have joined us. This is such a great topic. So, all the interaction is greatly appreciated. There's another question, Angela, so get ready.
Okay.
What if I want a top injector, but I can't afford one right now? Oh my gosh, we get this all the time. Angela, you want to start with this one?
Um, Sure. So most compensation structures will have a base hourly rate plus some sort of performance-based bonus or commission structure. If it's allowed, of course, within that state, or it's something that you do within your practice. That is an area where you maybe can be a little bit more aggressive on that bonus or commission structure while not overcommitting on that base pay. Now, injectors, of course, want to know they're going to make at least X amount. So you do really need to be realistic of what that potential is. You don't want to kind of bait and switch and tell them, oh, well, you could make up, $200,000, when in reality, the book of business that they're coming into is going to put them at 80,000 or 90,000 or whatever that might be. So I would say be honest. I would make sure that you have a plan for how quickly they can grow and how quickly you can get your revenue up to a point. So it's a trade off, right? You may not be able to afford them today, but what they're going to do for your practice once they do come in, if they're a really, really strong and great injector, if they're bringing some level of a book of business with them, you kind of need to look at that as well, not just necessarily what you can afford to pay today, but what is that going to look like most likely within 3 months, 6 months, and so on.
Yeah. I couldn't, again, just like you said to me, I couldn't have said that better. So many great questions coming in, but I just want to add to that you've got to make sure that your financial reporting, when you're trying to determine what
Mhm.
that salary is or what you're looking to is sustainable. So if you don't have assistance with, understanding your P&L or making sure your P&L is accurate, to really see how much of an investment you can make now and what maybe is 6 months down the road if you hit certain benchmarks.
Mhm.
Injectors are more than willing to be part of the conversation when it comes to their salary, especially if they know you're a growing one.
Mhm.
So if we hit it straight on and we're honest right from the get-go, and you know where you stand financially and where your break even is, and you can sustain a salary, then you should feel confident. If you don't know how to do all that, you're all over the place with your reporting. There's places that you can find some help with that. You know exactly where I'm talking about. It's right here at
Yep.
Diamond Accelerator. We watch our amazing consultants do it all the time. So
Yeah. Are there other
please reach out.
areas of profit you can, capitalize on? Are your expenses too high? There's so many ways you
Yep.
can go with it. Of course, that's a
Yep.
little bit more of a long-term solution. It's not going to be
Right.
fixed in an
But all in
hour.
all, it's fixable. We can do it. We can
Yeah.
actually have that conversation and we can get a solution. We just
Mhm.
have to get actuals
And I would
state to
say,
state.
consider different options and different variables. If can or want to take a part-time injector, sometimes there are hurdles to that, of course,
Mhm.
or give and take with that, but that can be an option to get them in, get going, and start building that revenue with a plan to scale them up to full-time within a certain period of time as revenue grows.
Yeah. We have a question here that we may need some assistance in the future with maybe getting some support to this particular person. Is there an SOP PDF document that can be adjusted to fit any aesthetic practice? Our office needs to have one as soon as possible. We will make sure that we contact you if you want to make sure you give us your contact information and put the word retention in there so we can send you not only that, but maybe the checklist as well. We'll be more than happy to try and open up that conversation. How do we fight? Oh, I think this is the same person. How do we fight? Let me see. I think I lost it for a second. The loss of any injection specialist when Texas has very loose laws. Well, I am here in Texas, so I can speak to that is accurate. We do have very loose laws here, but I'm curious. Why we're losing the injector in the first place. I think that's the biggest hurdle to accomplish is the why. Because if you're losing that one, what's going to keep you from losing the next one that you have? So it's really figuring out why that person's leaving and seeing if there's anything else you need to adjust. And then knowing your laws and knowing what's going to be changing and not letting that scare you. Fight it head on and be the place that everybody wants to work at. Angela, any thoughts?
No.
Okay, perfect.
Let's see.
Let me see. I'm
You're
going through. I don't think there's
close
anyone
to the
else,
heart
but
on that
again,
one.
thank you. I know we have just a few minutes left, but there's a couple more questions. Angela, what's one thing I can fix immediately to improve retention? Oh, that's a good one.
Mhm. Well, I would say after you go through your checklist, what is the thing that you think is going to move the needle that can be adjusted as quickly as possible. But for me, otherwise, it's just starting with consistent, intentional, and clear communication. If you've been slacking in that area and kind of letting your team do their thing, start setting meetings, do those one-on-one monthly or quarterly meetings. And don't mistake silence for satisfaction. So just because your injector is not voicing their concerns outwardly doesn't mean everything is perfect and everything is working. Do not fall into that trap of making that assumption. You have got to talk to them. So most practices lose people because there aren't regular check-ins like that. There's no clear feedback, no clear direction, and just the conversations are not happening. So everybody's kind of left out on their own, sort of floating, thinking everything is okay. Meanwhile, again, they're interviewing on the down low. So an easy win, again, would be implementing those regular check-ins. If you only have time when starting to do it quarterly, but do it pretty quickly, do it soon, and do it with intention. Make sure you know what you're talking about with them when you do sit down. You want to talk about what their goals are, short-term and long-term goals. Where do they see themselves in their career? What do they want to do next in terms of enhancing their skills? What does growth look like to them? What's working within the practice, within their role, and very important, what's not working for them. So it sounds very simple, of course, it's easy to say, but it is one of the most overlooked but most powerful tools for retention.
Well said, Angela. Okay, I know we have like 45 seconds left, but no comment left behind here. So we have one last question that came through. Is it possible to hire a part-time injector? Is it worth training someone with no experience? Absolutely. Most injectors are wanting part-time so they can build their clientele up the safe and most consistent way. And is it worth training someone new? Sometimes. It depends on your relationship with your reps. How much of that is going to be out of pocket for you? Do you have something to protect you if that person is invested in and then they leave? Lots of moving parts and ways that we could definitely get that conversation going in more depth since we're running out of time. So if you want to put your contact information in the comment section, we would love to continue that conversation for sure. So Angela, I'm going to have you take us out.
Sure. Thanks everybody for joining. Again, if you loved this training, make sure you share it with your team or another med spa that could benefit from it. You can always catch the replay on our YouTube channel. And to get access to more free training like this, but with a million other topics that will help you grow your med spa, visit our link tree in our social bio and be sure to join us live every Wednesday at 2:30 Central Time, same place. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere else.
All the things. Yeah. All right, guys. Until next time, it's your favorite recruiter signing off. Bye.